Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Power Hour podcast. And I'm super excited today because I'm here with Duncan Boyne. Duncan, how are you doing, my friend?
I am good. I am good. I'm only disappointed it's taken me this long to actually come on here, but I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, we had those interactions on LinkedIn really early on when you started kind of your content creation journey. And that's really going to be a huge talking point in this podcast and the questions I've got prepared because you blew up, to be honest. And then you came from a place where you didn't make any content at all to a place where people recognize you, well on track to become an MVP, starting your own user groups and everything in between. So how's that been for you, I guess, is the first question.
Um, it's been progression on steroids is probably the way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. I know. So a little bit of backstory. Mine and your phone call, which was in late December, is like the starting point for all. Let's be honest.
Hmm.
Um, we can go further into that if you ask more questions about it. But then, yeah, since January 1st, I made a conscious effort to say I'm going to go all in on it. I want to market myself. I want to learn from the community. I want to be a part of the community. And from there, since then I've had two speaking gigs. I am a co-founder of a user group which has put on one event, and shortly having multiple more. Um, I've got five newsletters. I've got content going out pretty much every day across YouTube, TikTok. TikTok is a fun one.
Yeah.
That's an experience I wasn't expecting. Made a huge amount of friends actually, and people I actually genuinely consider as friends, you included. Um, and it's been a funny 6 months. Everything's kind of exploded in a good way, in a good way. Um, but just yeah, it's been on steroids the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. And Duncan, my first question that I plan for, and we do like a good tangent on this, so staying on track isn't my specialty. So I'm glad this kind of fell into here. But how's growing your brand like impacted your opportunities, your career? You just spoke about all of the personal benefits it's had, like meeting people and connecting with people. But has that transmitted into materializing? Into your career and into the opportunities that you've generated for yourself?
Um, it hasn't materialized in the way that I have gained employment from it, but
Mm.
I've definitely gained opportunities and could gain employment from it.
Mm.
The current role that I'm in was from a long-standing relationship I had with a recruiter. Um, and yeah, it was more generic rather than me and my actual brand. But I've been reached out to numerous times because of my brand, and I have deeper connections with people that are in like hiring power positions in Microsoft partners and consultancies and stuff because of my brand. So not yet is probably the right answer to that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
for sure. And Duncan, a brand, like people hear that word, and I feel like a lot of people get scared of it, right? But I feel like personally, and I've advocated for this many times on this podcast, I think it's so important for people in any space, especially our space, considering I think nowadays, at least for now, it's a bit of a niche. I think we're getting to more of a it not being a niche for sure, especially with Copilot coming along. But we're definitely in a bit of a niche now. So I think branding is even more important because it's easier to build your brand within this space. So what does a brand mean to you, and how would you say a brand can impact other people who are probably on the verge of wanting to build it but haven't committed to it yet?
so you can see a brand in a couple of different ways. How I sort of half imagine it really is a brand is like a visual CV.
Mm.
It's you proving your knowledge and you advocating what you know and how you know it and how you would execute it, but in a almost in a almost in a Colosseum way. Like you have to prove it in front of people, but in a real life situation, not just I wrote this on my CV. Like I know numerous people that have said they've got degrees on their CV, or they've upped their grades on their CV, or they've tweaked how long they've been at a company from a couple of months just to make it look better. Whereas having it out on, say, LinkedIn, especially when you talk about your skills and you talk about solutions you've done and you share work you've done, that's real, that's verifiable, that's holding yourself accountable almost. So it's almost like that level of authenticity is gained from what you can do, because like CVs are so flat. I know that people prep them. I know they can look good, But saying you were as part of a project team or that you led a project and stuff, it doesn't tell you, okay, what did we struggle with? What did I learn because we did this? What really spun us out because Microsoft dropped a new feature or took or deprecated something while we're mid project? Whereas giving a detailed post about that or an iconograph or a GIF or actually showing that in real life has so much more value. Personally, like I'm not in a hiring position. There might be recruitment managers out there being like, "He's talking crap," but for me, that's how I feel. And it's also about putting the emotional side into that because a lot of online communication is done by text, so it can lack emotion. It can lack true meaning of how someone's going to describe it. I talk with my hands a lot. Sorry. Um, I'm quite a physical person. I move my body around a lot. ADHD, so I'm always touching things, I'm always playing with things. Whereas like showing that on a video or doing that on like a on how I talk on a post, I can get so much more personality on that than I can that CV. Um, sorry, I get distracted quite
No,
easily.
no, no, not at all.
What so Brand? What was the second half of the question?
So I want to press just on that first half before we get into that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, of course.
no, no, no. You mentioned obviously, the benefits of kind of having that brand and kind of what a brand means to you. And I love the way you described, like, I don't think a CV is enough nowadays. And I feel like anyone in recruitment can see that for themselves for sure. I just feel like, as you've mentioned, and someone gave me this bit of advice kind of a little while back, and it really stuck with me. And they said, people really the technical skills are the easy bit. Like people want to know, can they work with you? That's why we have interviews, right? Like if people just wanted to know what you did, they look at your CV and you'd go in the interview and they'd ask you 10 technical questions and you'd be out. And maybe some processes are like that, but in general, interviews, if they go well, from my experience, tend to go into a bit more of a personal level. They want to get to know you, how you work, what you do, how you think. And I feel like with a personal brand, with LinkedIn, people have a unanimous idea of how you think, right? Oh, like Duncan, I know he thinks like that, or Howden, I know he thinks like that. It's a unique way of showing yourself off. And I think with that comes with a lot of opportunity. So I just like to dig into that a little bit more and well, I kind of just wanted to highlight that. And I love the way you piece that together because I think it's important for people who are listening to this to know that we're in a new age where social media is the front and center of everything we do. People don't People aren't going to believe a faceless person where if we Google them, we can't find any trace of them. There's too many people out there. There's too many people with accountability and proof and
Yeah.
evidence. So I just kind of wanted to dig into that. And my second part of the question, Duncan, was, you define what a brand is, but how can people go about building their brand? If you had to give them almost a roadmap, because, you know, with all things considered, you started about 7 months ago, right? Building your
hmm
brand. I think our call was in December, as you've mentioned. So it's kind of fresh in your mind right now. What would you say? How would someone get from point A, from no one knowing where they are, to all the way to the end, from people who know their name, know their face, and have made a name for themselves within the community?
That is a great question, and I remember a question I asked you in that call was like, okay, if I wanted to post, what would I post about? And you were like, well, what do you enjoy? What do you actually find enjoyment in what you're doing? And like, what would you say is your speciality? And for me, data and Power BI. But I was quite young to the rest of the Power Platform. Like I dabbled in Power Automate, I'd done some bit in Power Apps, but I wasn't at a level that I could say that I'm a Power Platform dev. I was a Power BI specialist that was learning to be a Microsoft functional consultant. Um, that was my journey. So I kind of took that. I looked at what other people were going, what other people were posting. Like I looked at you, I looked at Franco, Parvez. There were so many great content creators already in our space. I'm like, okay, what do they post about? How do they want to post things? And what sort of audience are they trying to reach? So I looked at all that and I thought, well, I wish I had someone that talked about those early mistakes and those early learning points. So I was like, okay, if I wanted to get into this now, what are the key things I want to look at? So I started with stuff like the top tools that third party add-ons for the Power Platform, like what can actually make your life easier inside of it. Thinking like XRM Toolbox, you think like Figma for Power BI, and all those little other ones that I've posted about numerous times. Um, And I thought about it like that. And then I started doing, okay, so what am I doing at work today? What have I got wrong? What have I done right? Let me talk about that. Like, what am I proud of today? And what have I learned from the things I'm doing? And I've delivered a talk at my most recent user group about content creation and where I actually did this. So this is really quite fresh in my mind. But whatever you do at work, unless it's classified or security clearance or whatever, you can talk about it. You can say like, well, this is the challenges I've had today. This is how I'm planning things. Like it can be from like, how do I use Jira? Do I use a second brain? Like I know we've spoken about that before, but personally, try to write down everything I'm doing and I'm done, so that I can reference myself and learn from my own things. So like, this is how I felt about it now. These are the ideas I have of something I'd like to create in say Power Apps. I then go and test it. It's like, yes, that works, but it's not working how I wanted to. What can I do better? And having that sort of almost diary like exchange of what I've done, I can go back and learn from it. And
Mm.
that took me a long time to get into that routine. And I pushed myself to do it, but I've learned so much and so much quicker than I ever used to because of it.
Yeah,
Um,
and sorry to interrupt you, Duncan, but there's so much power in that nowadays, right? And we spoke about that early on, but in building, documenting, anything, any notes, anything in your thinking, etc. Like I was doing it a lot on Evernote, but then I moved to Notion because I like Notion's AI features more. I just feel like in this world that we're kind of broken into now of generative AI, getting that data and a system that knows us and understands the way we think is so powerful. And yeah, I've just been throwing everything into Notion now, so I think it's a really key talking point, and I feel like more people should be doing it. So sorry to interrupt you, but I thought I'd just add that note. So sorry, please
no,
continue.
no, I agree 100%. And that leads me to another point. So whenever I do my LinkedIn post or I add to my second brain, I do with the AI potential that I have and the bots I've installed on things, I always ask it, when was the last time I talked about this? How did I reference it before? What can I build upon in this post that would almost throw back to what I've said before? So if I'm now at the end of a project and I said at the beginning these were the considerations I was having, what did actually come from that? Like where were the pain points? What did I learn from that? Where did I seek help from? Because I'm massively in for actually highlighting other members of the community. Like I can be an expert level at something, but there is always someone that'll know more or know it slightly differently or had a different perspective on it. And I think that's really important because not everyone can learn in one media form or from one person. I might be a great teacher to 95% of the population, but those 5% need someone to go to learn it if they can't learn from me. Or I'm very much for hyping up my friends. Like I've numerously tagged you in things, as well as a whole list of people that are experts in their field and deliver value for the content they make. But yeah, I've always done things. I'm actually on Notion now. Ian Tweedy bullied me into Notion. I was a massive Obsidian fan, and I still use that for a lot of my personal things. But yeah, even references to books. When I'm reading a technical book or even a non-technical book and something stands out to me, I'll make links to it and I'll use it as reference for other points. So when I'm talking about like project management and actually going from end to end, or actually that beginning phase of okay, we're going in blank on a finance team and we're trying to create a load of reports. What is the story we're going to tell? Like I'll use quotes and ideas from non-technical things that actually
Mm.
hold true for what we're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
And I,
yeah.
and like I've spoken to so many people, Duncan, who come to me for advice on making content, and their biggest problem is like I'm disciplined enough to book the time on my calendar. Every week, I'll put 2 hours in, I'll sit down to make the content, and my mind goes blank, and I don't know what to make the content about, right? And I feel like it's a problem a lot of people face. And I always say to these people, and if you're one of those people listening to this and you're struggling with this problem, have an ideas bank. It could be Notion, it can be Google Docs, it can be Drive, it can be pen and paper. I don't recommend it, but it can be pen and paper. Just have somewhere to put your ideas, because you could be reading a technical book, or you could be struggling with an issue at work that you figured out and you want to turn into content and teach people, right? And I genuinely think having somewhere to store those ideas, so when you do sit down you have something to look at, say, okay, now I've got some ideas, and maybe you can put them into AI or ChatGPT to kind of condense your thinking and put it into a nice structured post. But at least you've got something to write about. So that's always a tip that I give.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like even writing down just a few words of where your brain was at the time, and I think the most important bit is where your brain is now talking about it, because it is, if you don't put the right things down, or you just rely on like, oh no, I'll remember that, you lose that sort of your emotional state of how you were at the time. So
Hmm.
if you've just overcome something, the elation or the almost frustration at yourself for like, that's so dumb, I can't believe I didn't realize this sooner, you lose that the longer you wait to talk about it. So even just scribbling down some notes, thinking like, okay, I'm going to do content creation Sunday evening. Like, just put like, I felt like this because of this. This is what I achieved. This is what I want to do a post about. Like, a couple of lines. You haven't wasted any of your work time. You're done. You're ready. And then on Sunday, you can go back into that same headspace rather than just trying to imagine how it was.
Hmm.
Um, I think that's really important. And I feel like, how do I put it? I feel like having an idea bank is so good because you don't necessarily, if you write down those information, you don't have to act on it straight away. If you've got enough details to remember that emotional state, remember how you feel, you would be like, okay, I've done this, ties into something else I want to talk about. Which order do I want to do it in? Like, is this actually going to be like 3 or 4 posts over a week that all tie in together, or actually these ideas are enough that I want to talk about this on a podcast, or it's a YouTube video's worth. There's so many different ways to talk about it. Or if it's little snippets, lots of little snippets, it could be a newsletter. Um, so it's I do agree, having that bank of your own ideas and going to it is definitely the key way. I couldn't just sit down and be like, what am I going to create now? I couldn't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah,
I've
no,
just stage fright.
I've tried it. I've tried it. It's crazy. And yeah, no, I mean, it's the first bit of advice I give to anyone, right? And
Mm.
something else people struggle with, Duncan, and I'm curious how you feel about this and how you got over this, but it's like, oh, like there's already so many content creators making cool stuff on everything. Like Damien Bird does Power Automate. You do Power BI, maybe Parvis does ALM. So you've got these different people who are very well known in the space already doing a bunch of things. What advice would you give the person who's like, oh, I don't have anything to talk about because everyone's already talking about it?
I've got such a wide array of applications that can go from perspective to perspective. So you can have someone who is at the top of the game, pro code, they can talk about it all day long, but your perspective as a civilian dev could be insight that people have not seen and want to know about. And it goes vice versa. Experts in a field are going to want to hear from people that are new and coming at it with fresh eyes. We always see in businesses the person who comes in, the the latest, the newest, has ideas that people haven't seen before. They've got experience from other companies. They've got experience from other things. Like, they're going to come at it from a different way than perhaps we've seen before. And I think that is so important, that having a voice and just going for, just trying it. Like, if you go out and you post a couple of things, and you're going to get feedback, you're going to look at it yourself and think, I didn't quite hit the mark there. You're going to see it in the numbers. If numbers is your game, I do talk about numbers, but I don't chase numbers. That's kind of how I see things for myself now. I've got too addicted to the dopamine of, oh, I got this many impressions today and stuff, and I checked it more than I checked on anything else on my phone, and that got to a bad state. But it's just taking that first leap. Just talk it through, because someone will find it valuable. Even if it's only one person, like, if only one person ever found my content useful, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
Like, there is one person I've shared with, there's one person that can see value from it.
Yeah.
And it's the same as I see other people's content. If I see someone with like a post that, maybe it doesn't hit the mark in everything that I would want from a post or from the ideas, even if like only 2 sentences resonate with me, like, that's still changed my outlook on something. That's still made something to me. We don't always hit the mark with everything we post. Like, I've had ones that I've spent hours and hours and hours on that got like 10 likes and 1,000 impressions, and I'm like, yep, hate my life for that. And then I've done ones where I'm like, I've had a quick idea, let me just type it up. And then 25 minutes later, I posted and I've got 100,000 impressions. And it's like, you've kind of got to see the value in it from yourself and what you're putting out, and the key people you want to see it, rather than worry about the bigger picture. Because
Yeah,
numbers happen. If you're consistent, numbers will come to you. It just
100%.
happens.
Yeah, and numbers are a strange one, right? Because I I always have this thing that I do, and I did it with you, and I do it with all of my other calls, where I show them my LinkedIn engagement and impressions like scale. And you
Hmm.
see, for a whole year, I got nothing. No one was looking at my stuff. I think my highest like reacted post was like 20 likes, and this was a whole year straight of posting, pretty much every week. And now retrospectively, it wasn't that much compared to what I do now, but it was still quite a bit and more consistent than probably 90% of people.
Hmm.
And nothing, right? You just, I always tell people, put up with it for a year, right? Put up with it for a year and then come back to me and then let's see where you are. And the
Hmm.
chances are you've learned so much from yourself, from the community, from the content you're putting out there, from yourself, because I personally believe that teaching people is the best way to learn. I feel like there's no other way to cement that knowledge in your brain. And tell me if you got a valuable experience out of it or not. Even if you didn't hit the heights that you wanted to in a year, tell me if you didn't get a valuable experience. And the chances are they did, because you learn a lot about yourself when you do that. So I think that's really important to do.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
no, I agree. I agree.
yeah,
And although my journey is slightly different, mine did kick off very quickly
yes,
and very early,
hmm,
which was happy accident is the best way to say it. But it's a typical graph, especially with my impressions, where you get the peaks and troughs, but it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But there's that steady upward trend, and you gain momentum based on the community you're building and the people you're talking to, and it's that consistency that makes it better for the numbers, I feel. And you obviously learn as you go. Like you learn what works, you learn how you want to speak, you learn your own voice. Like when I first started posting, it was very bland, it was very technical, it was very straight to the point, and then the more feedback I got, I was like, no, I'm just going to talk like me. And I'm sorry, my dog is about to say hello.
no
Um,
worries.
hello, you. Sorry. Do you actually want to put your face on it so it doesn't look like I'm touching something imaginary? Look, here you go. Do you want to say
Oh,
hello? This is Bella. She's
oh,
very new
she's
to the family.
gorgeous. Oh, really?
Hello. Yeah, we
How?
got her last Sunday. She's a rescue.
That's so cute. How old is she?
She is 3 in August, and she is
Oh,
very, very needy and wants to be with me all day long. Hello.
that
Can I go back to talking? You're putting your foot on the laptop now. Okay, she wants to talk.
is.
Um, but yeah, consistency is the key, and it's taking those hits sometimes and actually learning from it. And like you said, the best way to learn is to teach. I need to be able to talk about the things I do and tell them to my 7-year-old son and him understand, or at least be able to vaguely get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And I think the more you refine yourself based on what you do know, by if you can not dumb it down, that's the wrong way to do it, simplify it, that's when you can actually add value, because that's when you can go to stakeholders. That's when you can progress your career because you're an effective communicator. That's massive in our field. We've got
yeah.
so many people that can learn the tech, because anyone can learn the tech, I feel. But being able to talk about it, being able to engage people, getting people to be able to buy into what you're talking about, that's the important thing. And I think you learn that so much by communicating and doing posts and stuff online.
Yeah, that is truly special. Duncan, I think people really struggle with the age we're living in. And this is a really pressing question in my mind because I actually haven't had a chance to ask anyone it. There's an inside joke with all content that a lot of it's AI generated nowadays. So, what are some of the strategies that you do to balance kind of AI and authenticity in your content?
So when I first started in content, I used to write a couple of lines and just say, "Please help me," and let it generate a lot of it. Like I've been open about it in the past. Like I had good ideas, but could not get them out of me. Um, and then I started adding my own voice to it and started giving it like deeply detailed prompts about, this is my sense of humor, this is the sort of hook that I'm going into, this is the way that I want to deliver this. And then I got to a point where I wanted to be, I wouldn't say more authentic, but I made a pledge to myself that yes, I can have AI's help because I use it for structure, for spelling. Like sometimes sentences don't come across very well from me. But the biggest impact I actually wanted from AI was, I'm ADHD. I really struggle to read blocky text and long bits of text. I'm like, sorry, how can I make this the most readable to the most amount of people? How do I do the spacing? How do I lay it out so that it's short, easy? I know we've all got short attention spans. We're living in an age where people can't spend longer than 2 seconds looking at something. They need another hit of dopamine. And I ask it for structural help in that way. So I write everything I can and make sure that it's spelt correctly, grammar, and I let it do all that stuff. The M dash I don't mind. Stick all them in as much at once. I don't know how to combine two sentences myself. I just don't. Um, but I generally try and keep at least 90% of the words my own now. But before I used it completely, like, and even for ideas and stuff, like, I want to talk about this in Power BI, but what are the actual details of it? And then it gives me a list. And it's like, okay, I can take a couple of those and actually talk about those. I'm confident in that. It's good for brainstorming. It's good for being your editor, but I try and leave the content to myself.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. And something that really helps me, Duncan, I'm not sure if you've engaged in this, but it sounds like it from what you've said, but it's basically, writing down everything on your mind on paper first, like whatever it is, even if it sucks, just writing it down in your own words and then giving it to ChatGPT with a detailed prompt or whatever AI you use with a detailed prompt, guiding it through your sense of humor. Something I've also liked to do is, and this is a really cool feature, but if you use the ChatGPT advanced reasoning model and put your LinkedIn link, it will actually go through your other posts and get kind of the tone of voice from it. So if you give your LinkedIn profile link, it will kind of go and match that tone of voice that you have as well. But I always start with writing the content myself and then try and optimize it for things that you've mentioned, like copywriting and obviously grammar and those types of things. So yeah. And there's also dead giveaways, right? Like the rocket ship emoji, which is just terrible, or that long line. I call it terrible. I have a post coming up tomorrow with the rocket ship emoji, which is kind of funny, but it makes sense. It makes sense. But there's dead giveaways, so just make sure there's not dead giveaways because people will not read your stuff if it's completely AI generated. With that being said, don't make it just AI generated. Show your personal taste because we don't want to all sound the same, right?
Yeah, no, agreed. There are some really dead giveaways, and yes, rocket ship, leveling up, gamification. When people are from Britain and they're using American spellings for everything, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you can prompt it to say that you want UK English. It's not too in depth.
yeah.
And when it's almost done, I can't even describe it. How I so I structure my newsletters in a way that it's like singular little blocks. But when it comes across like it's always asking itself a question in the post,
Mm.
like how would you have seen this? Comment below. Like when it's constantly asking questions, it feels like it's AI generated. Like there is so much where it wants call to actions where it doesn't feel natural to have them. Like I don't ever put in my post that I want someone to comment back on it because if people find it useful, they're going to do it. I feel like I learned that very early on that the engagement I want from people is natural. I don't want them to comment on a specific part of it. I'm not going to call their attention to that. I want them to find that their own voice for it, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And a lot of AI generated content has that call to action at the end that it's like, I want you to do this, or comment my name below and I'll send you something. I can't do it. It's
Yeah,
just not me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I think that's quite easy to spot. And I've had people message me all the time. This is the funniest part. People message me not about the actual content itself, but I do a lot of iconographs. I do a lot of pictures and stuff. And people are asking like, "Oh, what AI do you use for that?" And it's like, no, I spend hours painstakingly on Figma making sure that lines up.
Yeah,
I put the hard effort into that bit. Do not call that bit AI. Like
yeah,
that
yeah.
that bit is pure dedication. That is. And they're always disappointed when I say no. I just do it myself. Um, but yeah, you've made it on LinkedIn when people start copying your posts verbatim and using your images.
Yeah, that is fun, isn't it? And when they do,
Yes.
when they crop out your URL from it, that's even better. That nothing
Well,
makes me happier.
for me and you, we both put our faces on a lot of things, and I did
Yeah.
that purposefully early. And then when they try and cut that bit out, it's like you blurred my face. Like it's literally got my face on it. You know, my socials. I've put it, and yeah, it's and there are some people that take it, copy the picture, then tag you and say, "Hey, this was this person's idea." And I know that me and you have a certain group of friends that talk about stuff like this. I'm not allowed to talk about the group of friends because I'll be breaking the rules of the friend
Yeah,
group.
yeah, yeah. First rule of Fight Club.
Yep. Uh, very much so. But I do still I struggle with it. Like there is a repost button. If you truly find it engaging and you want to share it with your audience, share what that original person had, or you know, give your opinion on it and your take on it. If you take what I've done, ask ChatGPT to change a couple of words, and then repost it, what are you doing for that? Like,
Yeah.
I could get a bot, I could create a fake account, I could go on YouTube and be one of those people who just do other people's clips and just spew out content. You're not ever going to learn. You're not going to progress. You're not going to find value and grow a proper audience if you are just using other people's stuff.
And I like what you said. You're not going to progress doing that. So if anyone's listening and doing that, it is actually hindering your progression with the community, because if someone goes through and sees that you've done that before, they're not going to like that. And I've actually seen people in the community more bothered about it than me. Like my girlfriend's even come and told me like actively, like, does that not bother you? Like she's got it in her phone. She's like, does that not actually bother you? And I'm just like, I mean, it kind of does. But like, there's people like giving that person, don't give anyone shit. But there's people in the comments saying, hey, like, don't take it from this person, credit them, etc. Like, the community really does have your back. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it bothers a lot of people, and it's not a good way to try and make progress, which is probably why you're listening to this episode in the first place. Yeah.
Oh yeah, people who are copying our stuff are not listening to this. No, they want that quick and easy win without actually doing the work, I feel like that a lot of that is coming from this whole AI generation. The fact that you can just type two words into something and it will just give you the answer. And I while AI has incredible uses and it's so clever and you can do so much with it now, people are using it in a lazy way. The same lazy way they use Google and the way that they message us on LinkedIn. So also had another conversation recently where people would message us asking questions, basically how to do their own job, and it's like you can only guide them so far. Like you can only say, okay, this is a link I would use. Like if you're looking for this kind of thing, you can go to Ben, or if you're looking for ALM stuff, like check out Parvis's post or reach out to him and see if you can get some consultancy done there. But it's that lack of initiative and that lack of try harding that puts people at disadvantage, and I don't think they realize it as much as they do. Like if
Yeah.
you are constantly just asking for people to do the stuff for you, and you've shown no effort of what you've tried to do beforehand, you're just like that kid who copied people at school that just didn't care, that just wanted the easy win.
Yeah.
Um,
But we live in that life now, don't we, Duncan? Like, I think people just want, as you mentioned previously, that next hit of dopamine, that next
yeah.
win, so they can move on to the next thing. I mean, people are just trying to get their jobs done sooner, and, we can't disregard them for it necessarily, but we can definitely say that it will hinder your own growth, right?
Hmm.
And there is a time and a place to ask people questions for sure. I have a podcast. I ask people questions every day. I annoy them with my questions every day. Um, but in general, I think there's a time and a place for it, as you've mentioned.
Hmm. Yeah, and I have a YouTube channel where I answer people's questions. So yeah, I can't moan about it completely. But then I had a guy reach out to me that come to one of our user groups with quite a niche problem with Power Automate, and me and Ian have spent 2 nights trying to solve it, and we're nearly there. But it's generally one of those where like I've tried everything I can possibly think of, like, and he showed his workings and it was great. Like he really had tried really hard, and I would have only got so far with it as well. Like it's taken me and Ian spending hours on it to actually figure it out. And one of those kind of questions I'm all for. But like, where would you change this sort of permission? It's like Google could tell you quicker than you messaging me and waiting for my reply. It's just, I feel like when I first got into IT, the biggest bit of merit you could have is that you knew how to Google things properly. You knew how to check Stack Overflow. You knew how to get onto a forum and see where people had that. Because in IT, the problem you're having now, 1,000 people have already had that problem and probably already talked about it and asked questions about it. And I know that with Microsoft, things emerge so quickly, but a lot of what they're building now is a better version of what they already had or with AI integrated. There is still documentation out there. There are still things you can look at before just thinking, well, I'm going to ask this person. Don't get me wrong, I love the questions. But when you can look at it and read it and think, Google would tell me the answer to this, you don't need to ask it to someone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like a bad habit I have as well, and I feel like I've changed a little bit on this, but it's something I wanted to ask you about. But it was LinkedIn addiction. or social media addiction in general. Like, I think it's a huge, well, it should be a huge talking point for people who create content because it is a real thing. And, you know, I'm looking at a phone lockbox that is sitting on my desk. Like, I put my phone inside of it, I set a timer, and then I can't use it anymore. My girlfriend found it very funny, but I think it's a real need. But how do you manage that? Right, because when you're making content, you're constantly checking how it's doing. So how do you shut off from that, Duncan?
That is a great question and one that I don't have a great answer to
Right.
because I still struggle.
Yeah.
I still get a notification from someone that I admire or hold like a certain sense of like friendship towards, or they're someone that I'm like, oh God, they are like top of their game. I want to know what they're saying. When I get notifications like that, I'm like, I'm gonna have to look. And I've tried turning notifications off. I bought myself a nothing phone, one of the ones where you can lay down flat and you only get the glyphs light up for certain things. And I do try my best. I honestly try my best. And some days I struggle. Some days I've spent far too many times opening it. And in others I can do well. I can be like, I've got my post scheduled for the day because I do all of my content before I want to post it. I have to have it in a schedule. Sometimes I have 3 or 4 weeks ahead. Sometimes it's only a week. Because I have a plan for my own content. Yes, I do like to check on certain points. Like I'll check at lunchtime. I'll check an hour after posting it to see that initial reaction because I feel like in that first hour you can gauge how that's going to go and that
Hmm.
that early feedback. Um, but I actively put timers on my phone to remind myself how long I've been on it because what you might think, oh, I'm just going to check it for 5 minutes, actually turns into 35 minutes. Or actually, you like, I've set an alarm that goes off and tells me how many times I've opened the app. So I'm like, I won't look at LinkedIn more than 10 times today. And then I've looked at it for the 10th time at 11:15, and I'm like, okay. And I think you need to have that accountability. Actually say, I'm only going to spend an hour on it this week. Put proper timers on. Actually hold yourself accountable for that. I think that's the best way to get past it. Some days I struggle, some days I do really well. I've also got into the bad habit of having on my personal laptop the LinkedIn app
Oh
installed, so it's not even in a
no.
web browser. I know. Um, but then I also try and keep to LinkedIn just on my phone. So some features on the app on your phone are better than the website. Um, so because I'm big on, I started on January 1st and I look onwards. Whenever I look at my impressions or my posts or anything, you can do a custom date filter when you're on the app to do from a certain date. Whereas on the actual normal one, you have to put in, oh, last 365 days. And for my last 365 days, half of it is just blank. um, which is fine to see where I've come from, but I already knew it was zero, so there's no point showing it, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's interesting. I had no idea that that had that on the phone and it didn't on the
Oh,
website.
yeah.
That's actually really annoying now that I know that because I don't have it on my phone, and that really annoys me that I can't put a custom date. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I also do it because I've made conscious notes in like Notion and stuff to say when I changed a certain style or when I started talking about something new. So I want to see the impressions that I got in this time period. Not necessarily a 2 week or a 3 week. It's like I'm now coming up on my fourth issue of my newsletters, but I took a week break. So I actually want to look at the last 5 weeks. And there isn't natively a way to do that on the website, but on the phone you can set to specific days, um, which I do really love. Um, although as a Power BI guy, I export all my data from LinkedIn and make my own dashboard anyway. So, you know,
That is cool. That is really cool. And yeah, I mean, like, that's something I actually wanted to ask you about because I thought it was so cool that you actually took something that you do in your day to day and kind of blended the content creation stuff that you did with it as well.
mhm,
I mean, two things before we get into that I like to do for myself, and it's really been helping me because I had a horrible problem where I was checking LinkedIn like 20 times a day. Like, it was crazy. Every notification, I was like a junkie just clicking on it and wanting to see what it was. That little red circle, it's so tempting to see what that is. So two things. First thing I like to do is don't have LinkedIn in a spot where you can constantly check it. So this is for me, right? Something where it's different for everyone. But for example, if I've got the app on my phone, I will be on it 24/7. Like it's just
Mhm.
I'm already addicted to my phone. I don't need LinkedIn on there to make it worse. So I delete LinkedIn from my phone. So that really helps me. The second thing is I like to leave LinkedIn until the end of the day, right? I have a 30-minute block at the end of the day where I can browse LinkedIn and I don't always follow it. Don't get me wrong. Like sometimes I dip in and out, but it does help because I've set a consistent time that I can check LinkedIn every day. So getting into that habit really helps me as well. So those are two things I'd recommend for anyone struggling who's making content, who's always checking it. Like, because it does give you a bit of brain fog, doesn't it? Like after you check LinkedIn and you're scrolling through and seeing what everyone else is doing, you're just kind of like, oh, like you can't really be asked to do much after that.
Yeah. And I've got ADHD, so my concentration is shot as it is. But what I actually struggle with the most is when I go through LinkedIn and see the cool things other people are doing. I'm like, that's given me an idea. It's not work related. It's an app I want to build for myself, or it's something that isn't going to actually benefit me right now. And I struggle with that the most. And I've read loads of books, like Atomic Habits is one of my favorites,
Yeah,
about doing the positive habits, and it's also about having that. If it's in an unreachable place, you're not going to go and seek it. You normally only go for things that are right in front of you. So if you don't have that app installed, if you purposefully have to do it, I think the biggest one to actually avoid it is logging out. Having to log in and put your details in is, for someone who's addicted to the phones or to a computer, myself included, having to put your login information is the most annoying thing
it's
about
so
anything.
annoying. Yeah,
So if you fully log out of something, you really have to make a conscious effort of, I'm going on here for a purpose to see this. Because when you log out of things, you don't get notifications for them. You don't get reminders that you haven't been on there. You don't get your pet is hungry, or your energy's refilled, or whatever your games are telling you. If you're logged out, you are not getting those notifications. And another thing, when you a good way to get rid of some notifications from LinkedIn is if you're commenting on a friend's post, or maybe it's them getting a new job and you've replied to it, then go into the notifications for that and disable notifications for that post. Unless you want to know every single person that's liked and every other person that's commented on it, turn them off.
yeah,
Because if you are a commenter on LinkedIn and it's not for a conversation, if you've got a conversation going on something, then fair, keep them on. Like if you want to know the updates. But if someone's got a new job and you just want to say, I know you're going to smash it, enjoy, can't wait to hear about it. Turn the notifications off for it. Just bin it off. Um, and also the biggest clickbait notification when you see suddenly at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon that you've got 5 LinkedIn notifications, and it's just, you haven't played the games today. My goodness. For someone who's addicted to knowing what's going on LinkedIn, I do not care that 45 other people have played Zip today. I don't care. That one
LinkedIn is a
kills
weird.
me.
It is a weird place for notifications, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really don't like the way they work. Like it's like
Yeah.
you put one comment and now that post has apparently become your life, at least for your profile for the next 24 hours. It is very strange the way that works. But yeah, LinkedIn's definitely very addicting of an application. I think Instagram is, Facebook can be, but LinkedIn is one of those things where it kind of it does align with your career, right? People are on LinkedIn to
Mm.
build a network. They're on LinkedIn to get opportunities, those types of things. And I feel like with that, we associate, material possessions, we associate reputation, we associate status. And I think it just makes you want to go on it just that much more. So yeah, LinkedIn, it can be a dangerous application to
Yeah.
indulge
And
in.
I think the types of different social media are what you're akin to your passions are. So if you are addicted to Facebook, it's because you care about your family and friends' updates and what they're doing with their lives. If you're doing Instagram, you want that Instagram lifestyle. You want to look and be respected like your peers do in that respect. Like if you're going on LinkedIn, if you're going on, sorry, Instagram to post your holiday pics, you're going to see a load of other people's holiday pictures. You the social media you get addicted to is based off what you are pushing for in your life. Like I'm addicted to LinkedIn because I want to push my career and my personal learning to the max. Like if I was really into gardening and taking pictures of me surrounded by chickens, I know I've got chickens in the garden. That's the only thing I can think of. Then
Nice.
I wouldn't be doing it on LinkedIn, would I? Like you are addicted to the one where you see the value for yourself in, I think,
Yeah, yeah.
and you see people progressing and excelling in the thing that you want. So I think you push yourself to that social media based on it. But
Yeah.
saying that, I grew up in a world where there was 4chan and Tumblr, and that was just for weird people. So I don't know what that says about me.
Yeah.
Um,
No, no, for sure. I mean, with that being said, I would really love to see your chickens on LinkedIn. So next post, if you have an idea, that would be awesome. Because I had no idea you had chickens, and that makes you like
mhm,
even more cooler than I thought you were, which is already a high standard. So that's awesome.
mhm,
Duncan, we're coming towards the end of the podcast. I wanted to ask
mhm.
this question because I think I always want to leave people with some practical things that they can do for themselves. And I think you've given them a bunch. But in terms of creating content, what's your process like for that? Like, do you time block? Is it a certain time every week? Is it ad hoc? Like, what works best for you?
So when I almost want to say a story plan in mind. So when I've got a series of posts or a bigger topic to think through, I block that time out. With the things that happen on a daily basis where you learn from something or a new feature's been added, that has to be ad hoc. For me personally, I can't wait to do that content. Like I'll have to do it at my lunch break, I'll have to do it as soon as I finish work. That has to be said and done from how I'm feeling. And then I try and plan the bigger things to do in a blocky period. I've got young children, I've got a family, I've got pets and stuff, so I give myself much more vague time periods. I'm like, I can do it this weekend, which isn't great from a procrastinator's ADHD point of view, but I've gotten into quite a good habit of making that time, and I feel like that's the thing. You make time for what you want. You will always do it. You'll always find excuses for stuff to not do things you don't want to do. But if you want to do it, you will find the time to do it, and you will just do it. Um, yeah. But it's also I think the biggest thing is finding a space to do it in. I think it's less about the time and more about the mental health space you can be in and the physical space. If you're in a space that like I couldn't do it here. Where I am right now, I'm surrounded by thousands of volumes of manga. There's gaming consoles everywhere. I couldn't do it here. So I take myself off into a place where there is no distractions other than what I'm actually doing, and then just pushing with that. In that space, I do have technical books, like I've got some of the cookbooks, the Power BI cookbook, Power Apps cookbook. I've actually got a couple of exam references for like PL 300 and 200 laying about that I try and read in those spaces as well, and dedicate it to that work headspace.
Mm.
And I think that's the most important thing. Like I know we've talked about like surroundings and stuff. I commented on your the Witcher stuff, and then before. But I try and take myself away from those sort of distractions because I know in myself I struggle with those. So
Mm.
I think your area and where you're doing something is more important than when,
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm the same. Like, I don't know about you, but I can't work when my office is like got things in it or my tables are like super busy or, when I say got things in it, I mean when the office is a mess, right? I can't lie to you. I've got clothes in that corner that you can't see because I didn't have time to clean them. Because I think one of the worst things in having an office and something I'm not going to make a mistake on again is having that couch because on that couch, I just throw everything on it. And yeah, it's a problem. But yeah, tangent aside, I really think having a clean, organized space that you're working in consistently, I'm going to go to X place to do, Y thing. I think it's really important. And I think it gets your headspace right. Something I've really been struggling with is brain fog. So anything to reduce that, I think is really important during the afternoon or anything like that. So yeah, I think that's a really valuable bit of advice, Duncan.
And I also feel like you don't have to do the brainstorming and the actual post itself in the same place. If your happy place is sitting in the garden staring at your chickens, and that's where you can think most clearly and not have that brain fog, go out there and actually think about it and write down your notes for it, and then come into your structured place and actually make that post. You're doing 90% of the work in the happy space in the place that you're mentally free. Go for a walk, do whatever it takes to get to that point and then come back and sort it through.
Mm.
Staring at that open laptop, that writer's block, okay, I just need to do something, that can work for some people, but it doesn't work for me, and I don't think it would ever work for me.
Yeah,
That 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 would feel like torture.
yeah,
And if you're not enjoying it, don't do it.
yeah,
When you're talking about content in your brand, if you are not enjoying something, just don't do it because it's not going to get better. I can't say that enough. Like, I'm old enough to realize that if you keep pushing yourself for something you don't enjoy, it's your results are never going to get better. You need that passion to progress.
I love that. And I think that's a great way to leave the audience, to give them something to think about. If you're doing anything that you hate, consider it. And I think it's worth saying, Duncan, and definitely in my experience, like those experiences can build you, but I think, as you've mentioned, there is a moment and a time and place for them, right? And I think it's important to recognize when it's enough and maybe it's not going to work out, but spend some time on it, see if it does, and if it doesn't, then find something to try and make it more enjoyable, because I think it's really important. I mean, I love that you mentioned like kind of changing your space as well. Like, I think that's so, I think as tech professionals, we have a real luxury where we can take our laptops anywhere around the world. And I made a post on this a few weeks ago, but I think it's important to really take advantage of that, right? Like, I've got my nice office. I like being here, but occasionally, like, I love to go see Portugal and I love to be by the beach and take my laptop and do some work there. And I think that's important because we've got one of the best jobs in the world, honestly, which is being able to work remotely and gives us those benefits. So use them for sure.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And the same ideas you're going to have in your office can be completely different than the ones you're going to have in other spaces.
Mm.
Like, you're gonna see something and it's going to be like, oh, that reminds me of this. And like, our minds work in such like interconnected ways that you're going to see solutions and you're going to think of things that you could not see in the space you're in now. Like
Yes.
going for that walk, or just I quite often like the idea of just having music on, just going for a walk, doing something else to break up that cycle of where you're in. Like, I feel like you digest things, and also then doing the opposite of just sitting in a room and being quiet. Don't let anything distract you. Don't let anything else in. Just sit there and let your thoughts go wherever they're going to go. Our brains need time to create those connections and stuff for us. Like, we can pretend we're in charge of our bodies as much as we want, but we're not, are we? We're just a meat sack with a little electrodes firing our brains.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
no,
going off on a tangent. I
no,
can't,
no,
but
no, not at all. I think it's valuable advice, and I think it's true. Like, you never know what your experiences are going to give you, right? You never know what
Mhm.
actually going to the garden is going to give you, a new perspective, something. And yeah, I think in our space, especially, what are we? Knowledge workers, I guess. Yeah, knowledge workers. Like, we think we don't necessarily do the work physically with labor. We work with our minds generally, right? And we put it together with a few mashes of the keyboard, and then hopefully we have a solution. But yeah, like in general, we work with our minds, so it's very important to make sure that's optimized for you. And I feel like that's different for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
definitely.
that's a lovely way to end this episode, Duncan. Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, I always love to give this kind of last bit of the episode to my guests, roll out the red carpet, let the people know what you're up to, where they can find you. Duncan, the floor is yours, my friend.
You can find me everywhere. I am on every single social media these days. I blame Ian Tweedy for most of that. I've never once really used TikTok, and now I've got a crazy story for another time. But my car mechanic was like, "Oh, you're doing TikTok now," and I'm like, "Jesus Christ!" Like, it's gone global.
That's
Um,
crazy.
but yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. I talk the most rubbish there. I've got the Power Platform Clinic with my friend Ian on YouTube. If you are local to Norfolk or Eastern Counties in general, the Norfolk Power Platform User Group, we'd love to see some new faces there. Um, but yeah, just anywhere, and probably in Howdang's comment section, because I like to talk crap underneath his things all the time. In fact, that's how we first started talking. Was talking crap underneath his post. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Duncan. And yeah, all the links that Duncan just mentioned will be in the description. Duncan, you've given our guests, or even me, I know you've impacted our guests because you've impacted me, invaluable experiences here. And I think they can learn a lot from it. So, Duncan, thank you very much for coming on, my friend.
Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
it
It's good
easy.
to be here.
Bye bye.